have waited 28 years for.
When we push the boundaries to the unknown. Moments that remind us of a past we cannot accept, and that create within us the desire to take a stand and do something. 30 years ago, polio was claiming the lives of hundreds of thousands of children, just like me.
I know.
There was a vaccine that could help stop it, but it wasn't reaching all of us. Until you decided to step in and do something. You decided to find a way to reach us all, no matter where in the world we might be. It all started with one small project, and 6 million children were saved from polio forever. The world took notice, and things began to change. On streets, on trains, planes, boats and bicycles, over deserts and rivers, mountains and valleys, through jungles and war zones, you never stopped. But it can't end here. We are this close, the closest that we've ever been. 3 countries remain, and we must continue to strive to reach every last child. Because every life truly does matter. And together, we have proved that when you put service above self, the world can be a much better place.
Since 1985, Rotary has been the foundation on which the polio eradication program is built.
Last year, we saw just 37 cases, the lowest number in history.
Thanks to your efforts, more than 16 million people are walking today who would otherwise have been paralyzed.
Thanks to your vision, humanity is on the verge of one of the greatest public health achievements in history.
While our work is not yet done, the remarkable dream that you had 3 decades ago to tackle one of the world's greatest public health challenges, the end of polio, is nearly a reality.
Thanks to you, we truly are this close to ending polio.
Thanks to you, we are truly this close to ending polio.
Okay, I think
Okay,
Tammy's
so
here. Kristen.
this video, yeah, I was just going to say this video is 5 years old. So we've done a lot more since then. We only have 2 countries because Nigeria just went polio free. And we now are celebrating our 35th anniversary for those who are counting. Turn it over to Tammy.
Great. Thank you so much, guys. Sorry for the delay. That's the bonus and the negative of having Zoom meetings at work. I want to welcome you all to the Rotary Club of Kerrville. Thank you so much for being here. We've had a great week already. We have Polio Plus being planned, and our blood drive was a success. So thank you all so much. I want to remind you to put your phones on put your phones on mute and your Zoom button on mute so we can hear our speaker. If I could ask Bill Tucker to offer the invocation for us, please.
Okay, please bow your heads. Our Heavenly Father, we are truly grateful for the privilege of living in Kerrville, in maybe the best town, certainly in the best state, certainly in the best country in the world. And we thank you for that blessing. We also want to thank you for those like Andy and others that are willing to step up and put themselves out there to represent us and make decisions on our behalf for our good. We pray you'll give them blessings, but we also pray you'll give them wisdom to face the things that they're having to deal with in the midst of elections, very contentious time. So Father, we thank you and we ask for your guidance and your protection and your provision. And we ask these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Okay, I would like to ask you to join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
The flag
of the United States
of
of
the United
America,
States of America,
to the
to
republic
the republic
for which it
for
stands,
which it stands,
one nation,
one nation, under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Take that off.
Okay, I would like to ask Clint, would you like to introduce our speaker for us?
Thank you very much, President Tammy. And I've drawn a couple of very easy ones the last 2 weeks. Even though I don't recognize our speaker, he is here. And we're looking forward to his annual update of his efforts and the government's efforts in our behalf. So without more, please give a warm Rotary welcome to Andrew Murr.
Yeah, indeed.
Thank you, Clint. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. This is highly unusual. I don't know that I've ever played Hollywood Squares with so many X's and O's before. So a lot of fun. I did have a couple of questions whenever we decided to do this. And one was, are we supposed to eat lunch while we all sit here and watch each other? And today at the office, I've brought my lunchbox, and in it, I've got my peanut butter and jelly sandwich and 3 oranges and a protein bar. So if I need to join in, just let me know. Otherwise, I'll wait until we're done. It's been quite a tumultuous 2020, and I don't think that we have words. Tammy, there's not words that you can use to describe it in any written form. But just a couple updates. You know, my oldest is going to turn 12 in a few weeks. My youngest turned 1, so we're dealing with preteen and walking at the same time. I feel like we're all blessed and we're having great experiences, and I'm sure you are finding the silver linings to all your clouds as well. A couple of other topics that are always interesting to talk about is what have we been doing since the world shifted on us? And so I think we can always look back at that. I can tell you that there are some women folk in my family who are going to shave me whenever I'm sleeping one night because I quit shaving once we had the coronavirus lockdown. And so I have a mustache, but it will go away soon enough. And you can bet that my mother agrees with that. But for now, it's been a lot of fun as a symbol of what all went wrong so far in 2020. While we had the downtime, I know each of you has probably used it in different ways. Myself, I kind of used it as a challenge to eliminate some sugar from the diet and started running more regularly. So I'm up to 10 to 15 miles a week, and I'm able to make time for that, able to chase cows more frequently since I can't go to the courtroom. And that has been both a blessing and a curse. So like everyone, we are all affected in different ways. But one of the topics I know that you want to hear a little bit more about, and in this setting it's unusual to do, but to sort of give you an update on what's going on and what we might expect in our state government. One thing that I will acknowledge and that we probably all shared a couple of thumbs up is recently we did have a win for the area with the announcement that Killdeer Mountain Manufacturing was going to expand its operations from the Dakotas, of all places, to Kerrville, Texas. And with that, it's going to bring a couple hundred jobs and an infusion of millions of dollars, including some really highly skilled positions. And so I think we're all blessed to find a company that fits the profile and needs of the Hill Country. So that's really exciting. And you know, there's a lot of hard work that came about from both our city and our county and several of other boards to make that magic happen in conjunction with the governor's office and the Texas Enterprise Fund. So hats off to that. That took a long time coming to get here, but we should all be excited. Coming up, as you will recall, the Texas legislature meets every other year for 5 months. And so we're going to see the next legislative session begin in January of 21, and that will run through the end of May. But somebody asked me the other day, well, what do you think is going to be how are we going to handle the next legislative session? What's it going to be like? And I said, it's going to be miserable because it's going to be different. And as y'all are all familiar, most people, if it's different, we sometimes don't like it. And here is why it's going to be different than a lot of our other standard sessions. So first, let me paint the big picture in broad strokes. We don't know exactly how the Texas Capitol is going to operate under the COVID-19 world. We all can agree that there's going to be some differences, but when you talk about the process of considering legislation, so on average, between the House and the Senate, you can say that 9,000 to 12,000 bills or other documents get filed each session. Now, out of that, its passage rate is about 20%. So somewhere between 17 and 21% of all those good ideas and bad have a chance to actually become law. So the system's not designed to automatically win in every instance. But in order for a lot of that to happen, we've always depended upon relationships and the opportunity to meet and visit with folks, whether it is House members talking to senators, House members talking to folks in their own body, or you have a committee hearing and you have lots of interested folks come and share their points of view and meet in offices and work through late nights, sitting there patting each other on the back. And we're not going to be able to do that the same way that we've always thought about doing it. And so for that, when I talk about it's miserable, well, all of a sudden, if you're used to spending a great deal of time close up with other folks, we're going to see some restrictions on that, but I don't know what they're going to be yet. I think we can all agree that social distancing will likely continue as a good practice. I don't know about access to the building, but like many people, I want there to be access because frankly, if there's not access, then I don't know how a representative form of government works very well. So those are going to have to be worked out. Now, here's the other challenging things that are going to happen in the big picture. Texas is going to face a budget shortfall. So Texas works on a 2-year or a biennial budget system because the legislature meets every other year. And so we've already had the controller explain and anticipate that there'll be several $billion short. And that has to do with a combination of both the COVID-19 shutdown and the drop off on demand of oil and gas, which we see a lot of severance taxes come into the state coffers from production. And as y'all all recognize, you know, production tapered off in the spring through global changes in the economic system that it operates in. I think the anticipation is the economy stays strong. We'll continue to see growth in sales taxes, but I don't know that it fully balances out. So there will be a little bit of a budget shortfall, and that'll be a challenge in and of itself. The second big gorilla in the room, or big elephant in the room, is redistricting. And I speak to you not from a partisan point of view, but just as an analysis of what we can anticipate and what we should expect. And so, as you recall, the census is underway in 2020. So in 2021, the Texas legislature is responsible for redrawing districts based on population for the Texas House, the Texas Senate, and Texas congressional seats. And based on the increase in population in the state of Texas, we should anticipate 2 or even 3 new congressional seats will be awarded to Texas. That's the equivalent of almost 3 million people that have moved or been born into Texas compared to the other previously where we were in 10 years ago. Now, if for some reason the Texas House and the Texas Senate can't agree on maps, it does go to a redistricting board that is selected of statewide elected officials, and they draw the maps. But for congressional districts, if the legislature can't do it, then it goes to a federal judge panel of 3 judges. And so that's a heavy lift. And what we find is that generally between a budget issue, the coronavirus, and redistricting, it sucks a lot of oxygen out of the room to be able to talk about other issues that are important and near and dear to so many of us. Myself included, there's a lot that are working on not so sensational issues, whether it has to do with property taxes, whether it has to do with really basic changes in the law that we need to update based on technology. But what we find is that with the noise and the attention given to those big topics, we often see that there's less time spent on other matters that still affect us greatly in our daily lives. And so I know that we're going to have that lurking around the corner. One topic that's really more, well, I'd say as dry as toast, or Stockton, I would compare it to the pasture in late July. Nobody really wants to be interested in the details of it, is the ag valuation process we've experienced in western Kerr County, Mason County, Kimball County, and other counties. Some landowners have experienced substantial jumps in their ag valuation, not market value, but actually the computations used for ag value. And so we're going to be looking at trying to adjust that system through changes in state law, because it doesn't seem very fair to taxpayers. And also the system is complicated enough that even myself had to do a lot of studying to understand what someone in that position could do to try to make a change or understand how those values are arrived at. So if you can't understand it, it's hard to influence the outcome. Combined with that, I think, as you've seen on TV and you've read about online or in the newspapers, you're going to hear a lot of discussion about law enforcement issues, social issues that have to do with mental health. If you'll recall, 3 years ago, I think approximately, we had a terrible school shooting tragedy in Texas, and so a lot of attention was given to young people's mental health and school safety. I think you're going to continue to see some honing in on what works and what doesn't work in those areas. They don't make front page news, but they do have policies that affect us, that affect our families, affect my kids, affect folks' grandkids in a lot of ways. And we're still trying to move the pendulum in the state of Texas from a very reactive process to a more proactive process when it comes to mental health. And I've always likened it like this. Originally, science was behind the times, and so we really didn't understand how folks' brains worked, and we didn't understand what all might be wrong until they actually have an event. And for us, we wait until that event happens, and that's a catalyst for a response. And historically, the response was call law enforcement, and they show up and they can take someone into custody and then maybe help them get treatment if possible. But with the ability of science and technology, we can understand a little bit better what's happening before we get to a crisis event. And so if we can be more proactive with that, we can adjust state policy so that we don't necessarily turn to law enforcement as the front line for someone with a mental health issue. Instead, it should be a physician or someone who's studied the science and technology that goes along with it. Texas has been slow to turn that battleship just because we haven't put necessarily a framework in place that works in both urban areas and rural areas like the Hill Country. So those are some topics that I know we can anticipate reading about in the newspaper. You are also going to have what I call sleeper issues that pop up out of nowhere and all of a sudden become front page news in March or April and consume a great deal of time. In the past, we've seen some of those have to do with ethics reform. For a while, it looked like it had to do with sales tax for online companies, and then most importantly, fantasy football. For a while, that was a big sleeper issue. I know. It has gone away because there was a concern that it would be banned individually in states because of tax collection and or gambling restrictions. And so I think you've seen framework worked so that those still exist in wherever they are. I don't know much about them, but I know that they're out there, and there are some very, very fortunate folks that are passionate to participate in those. I would certainly ask you to reach out to me if you think you know what a sleeper issue might be, because in state policy, that's always fun to anticipate what it is so we can get to work on it. I can tell you also that I'd love to field some questions if you have them, but I'll leave you with this. I have told so many of you this over and over again that my team and I, they're a great team. Kelly Early's joined us, and she's my district director here in Kerrville, but we can't do it without you. And oftentimes you have great ideas, or you have solutions or changes in the law, but nothing happens until you call us and you explain to us what you've discovered and the solution that you have. And so by all means, don't forget to keep in touch with us, to holler at us, to communicate with us, because we're here to serve you, and we're also here to implement your great ideas. Can't do it without you. And I have a lot more I could talk about, but I want everybody to stay awake and not nod off. And so I guess, do we do some questions, or is there something that I missed that you want me to touch upon? I'm happy to touch and talk about anything, but I kept it pretty broad on purpose.
Well, thank you. We always have questions. We're a very inquisitive group. So anyone with questions for Representative Murr, please let us know what they are and start now.
President Tammy, can I ask a question?
You bet.
Andy, tell us a little bit about possible changes in the law relating to pipeline construction and landowner input in the process, please.
Absolutely. And so broadly, we refer to that as eminent domain reform. And so for property owners, and myself included, growing up on a family ranch, approximately 97% of the state of Texas is privately owned, and we put a high value on private property rights. That being said, the state is also a leader in energy production, and they move resources back and forth, whether it's oil, gas, or electricity, or other transmission lines. And so what you're talking about specifically are what landowners, myself included, feel like a system that is designed more for those that are coming across the land than for those that own it. The last two sessions, you have seen ag groups such as Farm Bureau and the Cattle Raisers Association merge forces with private property rights and landowners groups in an effort to make substantive changes to private property rights and the process of acquisition of right-of-ways and how fair market value is determined, because we all feel that the system is designed by big companies against us. And I have that discussion, frankly, with lots of them. But I can tell you that when you start talking about billion-dollar industries, they spend a great deal of time in Austin doing everything they can to minimize changes in the law. One of the big concerns that they always have is if something gets to the floor of the House or Senate, it can be amended on the floor, and maybe they've agreed to changes, but something out of the blue could suddenly be amended onto the bill and passed out, and they feel like that could hurt their industry, whether it's oil, gas, energy production, etc. And so that has typically been why they are so adverse to even seeing a bill get to the floor of the House or the Senate. Last session, we had an eminent domain bill make it the farthest it has ever made. It got through the Texas Senate and got to the Texas House, where a well-positioned individual in the House managed to bottle it up in a committee where it would never get out. And so I could tell you that the same interested parties are going to come back and push that topic again this session. And depending on the makeup of committees, we would certainly anticipate that that gets out of the House and Senate and becomes law. We all want that because we know that the Texas Hill Country is growing and we're seeing more friction in between property rights and eminent domain activity. So I hope that answered your question, but it didn't make it across the finish line this last time, but hopefully we can see a better chance of success if it doesn't get caught up in all the noise that I talked about earlier. Yeah.
Say, Andy?
Yes.
It's Bill Tucker. You mentioned property taxes. You championed some bills last session that I don't think ever passed. What are our chances of getting real property tax reform in Texas this time?
Thank you, Bill. So first, let me take just a second to talk about the bill that I passed out of the House last time. And so here's how I put it. You know, a lot of people pay property taxes, and we all hate to get that notice, and we really don't like parting with our money. That's normal. We worked hard for it. If you make a pie chart of the property taxes that you're going to pay this year, on average, across the state of Texas, in a pie chart, you will find that 50% of what you pay goes to fund public education. That goes to our ISDs. And the rest of it goes to municipalities, counties, and special districts like groundwater districts. So in some counties, like mine and yours, we actually pay even a greater share towards school taxes. So sometimes it can be 2/3 or 3/4 of the amount of property taxes you pay. We tinker with the edges, and people talk about ways to try to change it. And I simply look at it fundamentally, if you don't like paying property taxes, then let's abolish school property taxes and come up with a different way to pay for public education. Not cut it, not reduce it, but is there a different revenue source besides property taxes? If we did that, your property taxes would go down 50 to 70%. And you can make your pie chart and you can determine for yourself if that you think that's a good move or not. The proposal that I started with, because it's hard to find about $27 billion a year, is to look to sales tax. If you broadened the base of the sales tax, because there's approximately $35 billion annually in exemptions, so someone needs to look at that policy and see if those should continue or not. And I'm not talking about milk, bread, and eggs at the grocery store. There are entire industries that had a good lobbyist back in the day, and so they don't pay sales tax or collect it. If we broaden that base to some degree, perhaps there's an opportunity to eliminate property taxes. And so what we did with HB 297, we actually passed out of the House with a goal to abolish school property taxes over a 4-year period. And the only way that I could get my fellow members to agree to that is I want to lock them in a room and make them come up with a way to pay for it, because that's nobody wants to do the hard math on it. And I'm not saying that I know the right answer. If it was easy, we would already have picked that low-hanging fruit. So we're going to come back and work on that topic again. I will file similar legislation. I am all ears when it comes to folks having suggestions, advice, or alternatives for the different sources we could look to fund public education. Not trying to cut it or reduce it in any way, but the state of Texas does play a challenging role when a portion of it is collected from local property taxes, and then a portion of it is collected at the state, and then you at the local level are trying to figure out what your school district is getting from the state and from property taxes. And for every district, it varies. And so that's also hard to manage those. But Bill, at the end of the day, we're going to go back. We made it about halfway through. The Texas Senate didn't want to take that up at the time, but I'm really eager that we're going to continue to talk about it, because it means a lot to a whole lot of folks.
So Andy, we need you to be the Speaker of the House. But assuming you're not, what committees do you want to be on in the next session?
So Stockton, I appreciate that. I have no intention of ever wanting to be the Speaker of the House, but I appreciate the shout out. On a side note, I'll tell you that is interesting politics that we do have. So as you may recall, the current Texas House Speaker, Speaker Bonin, announced that he would not run again. And so he's retiring at the end of the year, which means that we will have a new speaker in the Texas House. So let me go down that road and then I'll answer your question. Currently, for you politicos, there are 9 seats separating the Republican majority from the Democrats in the Texas House. So there's 150 members, so there's only 83 Republicans. There are a number of contested races this cycle in which Democrats believe that they have a chance of success. I'm not going to look into a crystal ball and guess, but the Democrats could sweep the state and end up with a majority in the Texas House, and we would have a Democrat speaker. If the Republicans do maintain their majority, then we'll have a new Republican as a House Speaker. And so with that, you will see, Stockton, getting to your question, you'll see a likely shakeup in the chairmanships of committees and also who is on what committees. So when you talk about what I might be interested in, I'll start first with Ways and Means, because that's where we talk about tax policy. So if we're going to talk about property taxes, and we're going to say, you want meaningful reform, you want to reduce your property taxes, it comes out of that committee. And so I'd love an opportunity to serve again on that committee. I do enjoy both criminal jurisprudence and civil jurisprudence, having been a judge and still a practicing attorney. So I do like to talk about things that impact us at the courthouse. But beyond that, wherever I have an opportunity to serve, I work my tail off. And so I'm always eager to do it. And if there is an opening and someone says, Andy, we really need you to roll up your sleeves and work on this really boring part of Texas policy to make Texas better, I'm all for it. But in a nutshell, I think Ways and Means would be a good opportunity to have more meaningful discussion about property taxes.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
George Eichner here. You think there's any chance that there's going to be a bill come up about gambling? Yeah, as a possible way to fund some of these things?
George, there's always a chance. What I will tell you, though, is historically, we have seen that get bottled up in the Texas Senate. And so ever since Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick was elected, he has been, and he has made statements that he is adverse to ever considering legalized gambling in the sense you're probably talking about. And so that's really been off the table for him. And he gets to pick and choose primarily which bills come up in the Texas Senate. So right now, I don't know that you'll ever see something get out of the Texas Senate unless he revisits that topic himself.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. But I would tell you, I look at all the Texas license plates at casinos in Oklahoma, New Mexico, and other places, and there's something to be said for that.
Amen.
Great.
Andy, this is Bob Spearback.
Yes, sir.
What's your gut feeling about the race between Chip Roy and Wendy Davis? Yes, sir. And so just for everybody's clarification, Chip Roy is currently our congressman in District 21 and includes Kerr County. He is in a heated race with Wendy Davis, who's the Democrat nominee, and that comes down to the election in November. Just about a week ago, Chip explained to folks in Kerr County that that race, it's going to be close, and it depends upon how turnout is. If Miss Davis has a strong turnout in the portion of Travis County that is in the district, then there's a chance that she may have success. If turnout is strong in the Hill Country instead, then Chip Roy will be successful, and that's what he has said to folks. And Tammy, if I may, just give a bit of information to folks. I shout out, and again, this is nonpartisan. The last day to register to vote is October 5th. And so if I look on my calendar, that's right around the corner. And early voting starts October 13th through the 30th. And election day is November 3rd. I feel like the only people that don't know that there is an election coming up have been sleeping in a volcano. But please don't forget to exercise your right to vote.
Amen.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so very much. We really appreciate you coming each year. It means so much to us, and you always give us such great information and keep us informed, and we appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Great. And I hope you'll come back.
I would love to come back.
Yay.
Maybe we can all do it together and have our lunches at the same time.
That would be awesome. Yes. Well, okay, guys. Well, thank you so much. I know that you appreciated that presentation, as did I. We have some club business to go to. Stephanie Miller, I'll ask if you have Families and Rotary report for us.
Yes, Max Reinbach lost his mother-in-law this week. So condolences to Max.
Well, thank you so very much for keeping us informed on these things. Also, we are going to meet next week remotely again, but it's going to be our joint meeting with the Shriner University for the Hill Country College Fund kickoff. It's going to be a little different, and Dave Rittenhouse would like to explain to you how this is going to work. So Dave, would you give us an update on how that's going to work for next week?
Yeah, it's going to be with Microsoft Teams. So let me see if I can figure out how I'm going to share the right screen with you so that I can show you kind of what's going to happen. Y'all can hear me, right?
Yes.
And by now you should see my presentation, do you?
No.
Not yet. I wonder why. Because I am showing that I am showing it. Okay, hang on a minute. I probably haven't shared it yet for some strange reason.
Now, if you'll guys, while he's doing that, if you'll...
I'm sorry, I finally found the right button.
Great, go ahead.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to be using not Zoom, but Microsoft Teams. And that's a little bit different product. So I'm going to send out an invitation to you. And it's going to have something like this contained in it, okay? This is what I've already gotten from Shriner University. So just for context, it's the Hill Country College Fund at Shriner University. Remember, every year, and usually in September, we go and we have lunch there and we hear about the Hill Country College Fund. But they're not going to have an actual meal where people attend. It's going to be virtual. And you're going to use this link here that is sent to you. Okay, you're going to just click on that. Now this is just a picture, so you can't click on the one here. But when you do click on that, then you're going to have a screen that comes up that looks like this. And you're going to have basically three options here. You can open Microsoft Teams if you already have it on your computer, and that'll be a button here. You can download the Windows app for Microsoft Teams if you don't have it already. Or you can press here to watch on the web. So here are your three options. If you already have Microsoft Teams, I don't know if any of you already have installed other than Marta. I'm pretty sure Marta has it. Then this is the option I think you want to use. Now, should you want to download the Microsoft Windows app, I would suggest you allow yourself adequate time. So you either want to do it in advance, which I think you can do with no problem, or start maybe about 15 minutes before the kickoff of the meeting, which is at noon. So is that clear to everybody?
Yes.
Okay. And then the other option is you could just watch it on the web, which I think is probably the easiest thing if you don't want to be fiddling around with installing an app. And now the only thing I can see with the watch it on the web is you do have to allow a little extra time in order to log in. And the login procedure could be a little bit on the confusing side because I found it a little confusing whenever I did it. So what are you going to see? So if you have the Teams app, it looks kind of like this. And you have a lot of functionality available. If you don't use the Teams app, if you go the web option, you don't have as much functionality. But I don't think that matters at all for next week for those of you that are going to be attending, because I think they're just basically going to be showing you things. So you shouldn't have the need to do a whole lot. There is some functionality. Just so that you're aware of what it looks like, I attended the session this morning. Marty, you still out there?
Yes, sir, I am.
Outstanding. So I attended a Shriner Alliance meeting this morning, and our good friend Dr. Don Fraser, you remember him? He already presented to us once. He was given a presentation, and so this is kind of what it looked like. It looks similar to Zoom, but not exactly. And if you do it with the web option, it looks like this, which is slightly different in appearance, but not a whole lot different in appearance. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send this, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to send out the presentation with the invitation.
Thank you, David.
And hopefully you all will not have any difficulty. I think Marta might be our in-house expert on it. Is there anybody else that has expertise in this area? I had my first meeting this morning.
Well, great.
You know,
I think, go ahead, Marta.
We use it at Red Cross every day.
Yeah. Shriner's platform of choice for virtual meetings so far has been Teams. It doesn't have quite as much flexibility, I think, as Zoom, and it's not quite as easy to get it set up on your system. But once it's set up, just clicking on the link to the meeting from the invitation should be wonderfully sufficient for you to be able to join in.
So, yeah, I think you'll be able to get in with no problem.
Great. Well, thank you so much. If you will recall, this is when they kick off the Hill Country College Fund fundraising. We get to hear from scholarship recipients that were the beneficiaries of last year's Hill Country College Fund effort. And we as a club also donate $1,500 to the scholarship for the Weeks Martin Scholarship. So I think you will enjoy it. I hope you can find your way through to that meeting. Give yourself a little bit of extra time, like David said, to try to get into it. But I think you will really enjoy it. So I hope to see you all next week at this meeting. I would like to also update you on our blood drive. It was awesome. You know, as you know, it was personal to me, so I thank each of you for doing it. We were able to fill all of our slots. We gave 26 whole units of blood and 4 donations of double red cell blood, which I'm going to learn more about that. Everyone showed up for their appointments. There were some people that were not able to for various reasons, time or you know, some technical issue, but for the most part, we had everyone show up. Most everybody got to give, and we were able to help the Red Cross. I mean, the South Texas Blood and Tissue Center, who has told us they only have 1 day supply of blood. So thank you so much for that. We've also put up another date for our next one. Will be December 8th. We're going to try to maybe have it at the Ag Barn so that we can have more people at one time. We had a lot of people that tried to register to donate blood and couldn't because the schedule was full since we used the blood mobile. So anyway, thank you all for that. That means a lot to me, and I wanted to say thank you. Also on Polio Plus, I think maybe all of you have read my email, but we have some big news on that. We've come to, I sent out the email last week asking anybody to help. Bob Schmierbeck and Doug Winery stepped up and have offered to co-chair in an event. We had our first meeting last week, and we decided to have an in-person Polio Plus event for World Polio Day. And it's going to be October 24th at the River Star Pavilion. We're going to need help. We're going to need volunteers for committees. So please see that email and get with Bob or Doug to let them know where and how you can help. So thank you so much for everyone that's already joined and for those of you that will sign up after this. I think we have time, Christy, for, can we do an 8-minute breakout session, David?
Sure.
Okay, let's do an 8-minute breakout session. And we want to kind of talk, introduce to the people in your room who you are, a little bit maybe about what you do. And we want to know from the questions this week, we want to know what is your greatest personal accomplishment and what is #1 on your bucket list. So we will come back in 8 minutes and we can talk a little bit about that. And you have to come back because we have wine. So I'm going to give away some wine too.
Okay, Christy, I do not see the breakout button.
I've got it. Here we go.
You've got it.
Great. Hello, everybody.
Come off mute,
Good to
please.
see you. We've got everybody muted. We can unmute in this area because we're all just sitting around talking like we would be at a table. I think y'all know about me. I am with the Community Journal. We started it in 2005. I have 2 boys, 3 grandchildren, and those are my favorite things, are my grandchildren. With regard to my personal greatest accomplishment, I would say it was my boys. And number 1 on my bucket list is to go to Boston. I don't know why. So these are the things that I have. So let's hear from you guys.
Well, I found that it interesting that you want to go to Boston. I actually have a degree from Boston University, but I have spent very little time in Boston because when I was in the Army in Heidelberg area, Boston University sent their professors over and offered degree programs in Germany.
Oh, wow.
And so I got a degree a graduate degree while I was living in the Heidelberg, Germany area from Boston University. And I think it was like maybe 10 years later for my first time actually being in Boston.
Oh, that's funny.
Same thing with my wife. My wife got one too.
Aw.
Yeah.
Well, what about you? What is your bucket list and what's your greatest accomplishment?
Oh, I don't know. Your kids definitely have to be one of your greatest accomplishments. So that's and now I'm working on grandkids, you know.
Right.
So they're a lot of fun. I think one of the things that I did that was most difficult in my life was going to West Point and getting through there.
Oh,
So,
I can imagine.
So,
Also,
that may have been one of the most challenging things I ever did. One of the other most challenging things I ever did was probably I ran a large chemical plant in Baytown, Texas.
Oh, wow. Well, these are all things I didn't know. Well, thank you. What about you, Dennis or Wayne or John?
All right, I'll start. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I tried to get into West Point, but I didn't make it. Hold on a second. I got to stop my cell phone from ringing. I ended up in A&M and was in the Corps and got commissioned in the Air Force, spent 4 years, and started banking in San Antonio at Broadway National Bank. Y'all know that name?
Yes.
Yeah. The only bank around the country that still has the same name and the same national bank affiliation and still is owned by the same family, the Cheever family.
Neat.
I go way back to then. Of course, we moved here in '86, old Shriner Bank. Last 20 years, I've been doing business consulting locally with small businesses. I would say my greatest accomplishment is having 2 kids that I say are givers to the world and not takers from the world. In other words, they're doing very well on their own. I don't know. My bucket list has gotten shorter. My first one I've accomplished, and that was to play golf at the old course in St. Andrews.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. What about you, Wayne?
Yeah, I think I know everybody on here and everybody knows me, but I'd probably say, along with our 2 boys that we have being greatest accomplishments, the company that we have and what we're operating has just been an amazing accomplishment in itself on there. And then bucket list, we were supposed to have accomplished one of these back in August, the end of August, but go to Alaska. And of course that got canceled with everything else. So that's on tap for next summer.
Well, I hope you get there. I'm sure you will.
Trying to.
So Alaska was on our bucket list and we knocked it out. Okay.
Good.
And we wanted to do a Mediterranean cruise next year, but we postponed it to the following year because of COVID.
Right.
Well, and the full course of this Alaskan is not touched on this. We're just doing a little cruise on the southern end of Alaska. I want to go deep into the middle of it, but that's a 3-week trip, basically, and don't have the time for that one.
You'll enjoy it, Wayne, when you finally get there.
Yep.
We wanted to see the colors in New England this fall, but of course that got canceled. But I was on a Zoom call this morning with my high school buddies, and one of them lives in upper New York State, upper part of New York State, and he turned his iPad around and showed us all the colors in the trees up there. They're in their prime right now.
Oh, wow. What about you, John?
You're on mute, John. Are you there, John?
Or maybe
John's yeah, he's on mute.
Yeah, it looks like John signed in and then just went to a client.
I'm not sure he's actually there.
Well,
miss you, John.
I have really been enjoying doing this job, but I have to tell you, it's a lot of, we're a busy club. I don't think that anybody really realizes how much we do, but we do an awful lot. And hopefully we'll be able to shine a light on all of that at the end of our year, because we really are busy.
Hey, Tammy?
Yes.
Question. I was one of the ones that kind of was a little late in canceling yesterday because all of a sudden we've got 3 cases of COVID in our office.
Oh, no.
Are you able to fill that slot at 2:10?
I think so. I was there. You know what? I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not, because I left at around 1:30. I was there. My appointment was at 10:20. But we had 30 donations total, 40 slots. I know of 3 people that could not give. So that's only 7 that for either couldn't give or had to cancel. So I don't know. But they seemed very happy, and I was very happy. It went very smoothly. They got behind a little bit, and for that is why some of the people had to leave, because they were trying to do it on their lunch break, but they were running a little late. And there's some things I learned too. You know, next time we make sure everybody knows about that questionnaire beforehand, because that held stuff up. So anyway, that was really awesome. It truly was.
Looks like David's closing us.
It looks like, okay, I think we're all coming back. We're not all quite back yet, but we're coming back. Can everybody hear me? I'm on? Yes. Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay, so we have, I'm gonna give away our wine now. I think most everyone's back, but we have a rosé this week. And that is our last bottle of our first purchase. And so we will go get more for the next round. And the person that is the winner of the rosé is Judy Eichner. Is Judy here, and do you have your pin on? I see her in.
No, Judy's not here, but George is, and he's got his pin on. Does that count?
No.
The judges say no. I'm so sorry. And the next one was Jason Davis. Is he still here? It looks like he's gone. He's not here. Next was Mark McDaniel, and he is also no longer here. And Richard Bolin, you're here. Do you have your pin on?
I have not been issued a pin yet, as far as I know.
Ooh.
No excuse. No excuse.
Reality, he is. Let me. Oh no, you. Well, he was wearing a Rotary mask yesterday at the blood drive. I think that deserves wine. Okay, Richard, you may have that. You are the winner of the wine.
Winner on technicality.
Yes. How can I get that to you?
I can pick it up, or you can drop it off at 72 Degrees Ingram office.
Okay, we will drop it off. Great.
All right, awesome.
Okay, I think everybody's back. I think we are at 1:05. Let's go ahead and end the meeting, and thank you all so much for coming. If you will join me in the four-way test. Of the
things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you guys.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Tammy,
Yes.
members of